Morning, Matty. How you doing?
I'm good. Another solid weekend. Good round of footy. Some great individual performances. Lots to talk about.
Some really great, some great football, some great individual performances, particularly from veteran playmakers, Matty. Sean Johnson, Adam Reynolds were just sensational masterclasses from both those men. It just shows you in this modern game that is so fast, so full of great athletes, the old veteran playmaker, a bit of guile and know-how goes a long way.
It sure does. The game's getting faster, the game's getting crazier, but those with the cool heads and the experienced heads are the ones that are standing up. It kind of sets a bit of a template too, doesn't it? I mean, recruitment is going to be an issue that we'll talk about in just a sec for other reasons, but you're always looking for the next big thing, Matty, aren't you, in rugby league? You're looking for the next big superstar, but you also have to look now, and it's been shown especially across this season and like we just said, across the weekend, you've got to have an old hard head in there.
Well, I tell you, Matty, this is one of the biggest issues with the game, the shortage of real quality playmakers and halves. And the thing about it is with a guy like, you look at the difference Reynolds has made to the Brisbane Broncos. They were like a steering wheel, like a V8 engine with no steering wheel. You know, the last few years, you had all these great yardies, these young guys, great athletes, but they just had no one to steer them around the park. Reynolds goes there, and bit by bit's turned them into a serious, genuine title contender. And it's an issue in the game. You look at some of these sides that are just struggling low in the table and in the mid-table. If you put a quality halfback in there, everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely. The run home to the finals. So Origin is out of the way. How many points get you into the top 8? 5 of the top 9 teams still have one bye to come. So the Broncos, the Warriors, the Eels and Rabbitohs, plus the Cowboys, who sit just outside the 8, have one bye to come. So guaranteed 2 points. So of the current top 8, Matty, who do you reckon stays? Who goes? I'll just quickly give you and our listeners the 8. So the Panthers and Broncos on top equal first and second on 30 competition points. So I'll take all the buys out of this because I just gave you the heads up. So Panthers and Broncos first and second. Then the Storm and Raiders third and fourth on 28. The Warriors are there in fifth on 26th. The Sharks have 26 as well. The Eels are 7th on 24 points, and the Rabbitohs make up the 8 on 24, with the Cowboys just outside and on the tear over the last month and a half of footy on 24. So who stays, who goes, and who's a smoky?
Well, Matty, if we look down the ladder, okay, I'm going to go from 6, 7, 8 and 9. Right? I think the Knights, it's a bridge too far. They've got to climb a couple of wins to catch the likes of South and the Cowboys. Okay, so we go 6, 7, 8. Now, before that, higher than that, we've got the Raiders and the Warriors. Now, on run home and form, I keep them in the 8. 6, 7, 8's interesting. Okay, 8th. South Sydney. Souths have got Cody, Murray, Cook, but importantly, they've got Latrell coming back this week. Right? They're a side that can win the competition from anywhere in the 8. They stay in. The two teams, I'll put the Cowboys, they're running 9th at the moment. They're only on, they got one more bye to come, and once again, on form, I see them making the 8. So the two sides, they've got the circle around, they could be in trouble, the Sharks and the Eels. The Eels have had 2 byes, the Sharks have had all their byes so far. I think it'll be one of those sides that'll miss. It just shows you how important that win was last night for the Eels over the Titans. The Sharks, I tell you, Matty, their performance against the Warriors, the defensive effort was just a huge concern. They've got a monster game coming up. There's some really big games this week that stand out, but a couple which sort of slide under the radar a little bit. Sharks and Raiders is a massive game in terms of the top 8. Cowboys taking on the Eels. Again, another monster game. So I see the Cowboys getting in. I think it'll either be the Sharks or the Eels that miss.
All righty. Let us know your thoughts on that one. 0457 736 736. Who have you got staying in your 8? Who, therefore, if somebody's dipping out, is the team to go? And what about a smoky? Somebody from outside that top 8 to make a run for the finals. Like we say, this is now the clear run home. Origin is out of the way. On reflection just on Origin, we haven't spoken since that victory by New South Wales in Game 3 and everything that's now about to take place. In between now, Matty, and October, we'll start to get a feel of what's going to happen with the coaching situation. So that's probably to one side, and we can discuss that a little bit later on. Your reflection on how it all ended up for New South Wales, how it all ended up for Queensland, especially after Game 3.
Yeah, look, Game 3, the dead rubber. It's funny, Matt. It's easy to draw conclusions in hindsight, but there were certain things in the build-up with, I thought, in and around Queensland that I just thought the intensity wasn't quite there. They cut to the dressing room before the game. They just didn't have the same verve and punch, that appeared in the first two games. Having said that, New South Wales went out there and attacked really well. Cody Walker, we said I would have had him in from Game 1. I just thought he's the best left side playmaker in the competition. Actually, he's alongside Adam Reynolds and Munster, he's the best playmaker in the competition. He had to be there. Good to see Keon Kalamatangi get his start. He'll be there for a long time, and Bradman Best was fantastic on debut. Some big decisions to make at Tia Matty next year, whoever the coach is going to be. You've got Bradman Best and Stephen Crichton. Crichton was close to I reckon he was our best player in the series, Stephen Crichton. But then you got Latrell and you got Tommy, and so there's going to be some tough decisions next year because Bradman showed he's a state of origin player.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely got some answers, I think, out of Game 3, which is always the case. But weirdly enough, when it is a dead rubber, you don't seem to find too many answers. But I think especially on the New South Wales side of the fence, we certainly got a few more answers. Latrobe Financial, trusted by Australians for more than 70 years. Matt Johns here with the roundup on this Monday morning. Your best performer of the weekend, Matty, you've touched on Sean Johnson. We've touched on some of the old heads. What about Xavier Coates, a hat-trick? Isaac Tunga has been absolutely outstanding. And then outside of the world of football, somebody like Carlos Alcaraz, who at the age of 20 has just dethroned Novak Djokovic on the stage that he has owned. Outside of Roger, nobody's done it better.
Absolutely. The course of the weekend, you said about Isaac Tungo. This young fella is about to move into his, what I'd say in rugby league terms, imperial years. He's about to become a real dominant force. He's some sort of player. But I can't split the two veteran playmakers, Sean Johnson and Adam Reynolds. Adam Reynolds scored a try, probably had 4 or 5 try assists. He was just brilliant. And Sean Johnson, wow. He began the season, he's just getting better and better and better as the weeks go by. There was a scare in the game yesterday, of course. You might remember about 18 months ago he had the Achilles injury and he grabbed at it yesterday. But luckily, thank God he only twisted the ankle. But I'd say the coach, Andrew Webster, would have fell off his chair there for a second. But Johnson and Reynolds and Matty, those two men, I've never seen them ball play better. Right, it's just that I'm seeing little things in the nuances of when they're going to the line and how they're just spooking the defenders. It's really, it's train spotter stuff, but it intrigues me anyway.
For BizCover business insurance that'll have your small business winning every time, choose bizcover.com.au. Let us know your best performer of the weekend. So one of the headline talking points, Matty, is what's going on at the West Tigers. So Benji Marshall, obviously, in this picture with Scott Fulton, I still find it bizarre that a club can hire a recruitment manager without letting the current head coach or the incoming in next year or so head coach know about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm dreaming that I'm not part of this system. However, I just find it bizarre, and perhaps what's unfolding now is as a reason of that.
I think so, Matty. Look, I wasn't opposed to the system they put in place, which was Shoonsy at the top, and then you had Benji sort of emerging and coming through. However, you sort of look and go, okay, this is a different model. How exactly is this going to work? And it was basically almost the start of the confusion, if that makes sense. So suddenly, Shoonsy has really started to get the side going through the middle of the year. And then Appy breaks his jaw and they lose Brooks to the hamstring, and it's just left them totally vulnerable to whatever the opposition, what sort of form and desire the opposition come into the match. But Yeah, I can't work it out. From a perspective, we hear about Sheensy possibly stepping aside and then fast-tracking Benji into the role. Then they're saying that absolutely won't happen. But then Scott Fulton comes in. They're not consulted. Then we hear that Benji Marshall and Scott Fulton are clashing heads, and they're going to meet today, but Sheensy hasn't been told about it. Oh, man, that's a mess. Hopefully they can sit down this morning and just work something out, because it's just, as far as a club is structured, it resembles the Homermobile.
Can you give us an insight into the chain of command? I mean, obviously the head coach is top of the pops,
Yep.
right? So you've got your head coach there and then the assistant coaches that work under him. Where does the recruitment manager, officer, whatever you want to call it, sit in the chain of command at a footy club?
Well, Matty, I'll just say this with the club. I think as far as football operations, the head coach shouldn't sit at the top. As far as how the side plays, who plays first grade, yes, of course, he is the boss. But there has to be someone who sits alongside or slightly above the coach, who's in charge of the culture of the club and as far as basically what direction the club go. Now, he's almost, you'd say it'd be like a Prime Minister and a Governor General. Because what has happened, we've seen in years gone by with the Newcastle Knights, Matty, is that they have given all power to the first grade coach. And what that's happened is there has been a huge turnover of coaches in the Newcastle Knights in the last 20 years. And each coach brings something different. And each time the coach comes in and dismantles. So the club has just been totally unstable. Peter Parr has been put in now, and hopefully the club can be put back on the rails. But as far as recruitment is concerned, it's an interesting one. Look, and this is the drama with Benji and Scotty Fulton if they're not getting on, is that it's got to work hand in glove, because the recruitment guy has to be aware of what the first grade coach is trying to achieve and how he's trying to play, and then complement the coach by bringing in players who can play that way.
At the heart of all this, though, for the West Tigers, where the personalities aren't getting along or they've got differences of opinion, what they're trying to do is fill the number 7 jersey next year. They currently don't have a halfback, and if you're looking at your fans saying we've been through absolute horror for the last however many years, here's our way out of it, well, we currently don't have a number 7. So at the crux of all this, they're going to have to either put differences aside and find a 7, or get differences on the table, sort them out, and then find a 7. Yes,
and this is what we said before. There's so few really quality playmakers around. Look, one of the things they're clashing over is who to bring in at 7. Benji wants to bring Aiden Souza. I like that. Aiden's had quite a fair bit of experience. There was talk about Brodie Croft. Now, I've worked with Brodie personally. I think Brodie is a very good player. In the style that he plays. Now, what I mean by that is, if the Tigers are going to bring Brodie in, they've got to understand this. Brodie is essentially, I would say, 80% a runner. 80% run, 20% pass. He's not the sort of player that's going to steer the side around the park, where Caesar's got that little bit of extra experience. I think Caesar would be a better fit for the Tigers.
Alrighty, 0457 736 736. Your thoughts on that? 1300 01 1170 is that open line number. We're going to do our Dally M medal predictor. We'll sort of roll that out. What we'll do, Matty, is we'll line that up because they went behind closed doors in round 12 or after round 12. Later on in the program, we'll line that up with our SEN Player of the Year leaderboard, which has continued. Now, the points are a little bit different because you can get up to 6 points now for Dally M, and we've been operating on the 3. However, it'll give you an idea of who's still in the frame and who was leading the way as they went behind closed doors, because most of the leadership board for the Dally M haven't had an opportunity to be able to score points because of injuries or anything else.